I don't know.
It says pause.
Oh, it was just going.
Wow.
Okay, it's running now. Okay, fine. So now we're getting our witnesses.
I like mixed media.
Blanche is pretty cool with the mixed media.
Okay, now we're there.
I have a Blanche fan hanging
And
over
I'm
here.
here too.
And we're
You,
Between 1937 to 1947, $220 million was spent by the U.S. government on the war on drugs. Between 1948 and 1963, $1.5 billion was spent to outlaw marijuana. From 1964 to 1969, $9 billion was spent. The Marijuana Tax Act, which was passed in 1939, occurred just as the decorticator machine was invented. This invention would have helped take over competing industries. The Marijuana Tax Act stated that if you paid $1, you could legally grow and sell marijuana. Proof of paying the tax was a stamp, but the Treasury did not issue any stamps. William Hearst and DuPont Paper Company worked with Harry Anslinger to pass this act, not because of any moral or health issues, but to prevent this new industry from growing so they would not lose money. Many people do not know that in 1492, when Christopher Columbus came over to America, he brought with him the cannabis sativa plant. George Washington and Thomas Jefferson both grew marijuana. Henry Ford used hemp plastic to make the first Model T and fueled it with ethanol made from hemp. In 1961, Harry Anslinger went to the United Nations to convince 100+ nations to consolidate their drug laws with those of the United States, making marijuana globally illegal. In 1972, the National Commission on Marijuana and Drug Abuse released a report that showed that marijuana use did not lead to crime and that police were selective in the people that they targeted. These findings President Nixon chose to ignore. In 1980, Judge Francis recommended recent classification of marijuana to a prescription drug, but no action was taken. Beginning in 1998, many states began legalizing marijuana for medical use. These states include Washington, California, Alaska, Maine, Oregon, Hawaii, Nevada, Maryland, Vermont, Montana, Rhode Island, New Mexico, Michigan, and New Jersey. The topic of legalization of marijuana is a debatable because it involves many moral issues. Many people worry that it can cause problems with the lungs, but in 2006, a study done at UCLA found that smoking marijuana, even heavily and regularly, does not lead to lung cancer. Marijuana is one of the least toxic substances that cancer risks from, such as food, meat, salt, and dairy products far exceed any cancer risk posed by marijuana. The U.S. government statistics show that 75% of all Americans who use marijuana never use any harder drugs, disproving the gateway drug theory. If anything should be considered a gateway drug, it should be alcohol, because most cocaine and heroin addicts began their drug use with beer and wine. Medical studies rate marijuana as less habit-forming than caffeine and tobacco. Alcohol is associated with alcoholism, drunken driving, and violent behavior, and results in 80,000 deaths annually. Cigarette smoking causes lung cancer, emphysema, heart disease, and stroke, and results in 440,000 deaths annually, while no deaths are attributed to marijuana use. The thought of legalizing marijuana raises concerns that it will be made more available to kids, but in reality, criminalization has done little to nothing to keep it out of the hands of the youth. Some people can develop psychological dependency on marijuana, and it can decrease motivation, but the same can be said of many illegal behaviors such as shopping, eating, gambling, video gaming, surfing the internet, and texting. Walter Simpson, an environmental activist, says that we recognize the right of adults to consume alcohol and tobacco because we live in a society founded on individuals' rights and free choice. We respect these rights of the adults to choose to use these recreational drugs despite their own risks, with the caveat that they will be used in a manner that does not harm others. This line of reasoning should also apply to marijuana. Many current and former law officials who have organized the law enforcement against prohibition reject marijuana prohibition because of the $45 billion a year spent on the war on drugs, because it does far more harm than good. There are undeniable and substantial economic and taxpayer benefits of legalization, including legal jobs for growers and sellers. Taxing marijuana sales would generate billions of dollars to fill the budget gap or for lowering taxes. Walter Simpson also said, marijuana prohibition is an unjust, inhumane, and a waste of police, legal, and taxpayer resources, and the epitome of unwarranted big government intrusion into and interference with our private lives. Whether for medical use or for pleasure and recreation, it is only a matter of time before we come to our senses and legalize this relatively harmless drug for adults who choose to use it. Dr. Lester Grinspoon says that smoking extreme amounts of marijuana will do nothing but put someone to sleep, while drinking excessive amounts of alcohol can kill someone. A great deal of resources go into catching those who buy or sell illegal drugs on the black market, prosecuting them in court, and housing them in jail. One big cost to the war on drugs is revenue lost by governments who cannot collect taxes on these illegal drugs. In a study for the Fraser Institute, Stephen T. Eaton concluded that 0.5 grams of marijuana sold for $8.60 on the streets only cost $1.70 to produce. The prospects of jail time deters many entrepreneurs. We can consider much of this $6.90 per unit of marijuana profit as a risk premium for participating in the underground economy. If marijuana was legalized, we could transfer these excess profits from these grow operations to the government. Parade magazine has reported that the U.S. spends $68 billion per year on corrections, and a third of those are being corrected or serving times for nonviolent drug crimes. Parade magazine also reported that we spent $150 billion on policing and courts, and that 47.5% of all drug arrests are marijuana related, and that is a lot of money that can be spent on schools. It is estimated that marijuana is the largest cash crop in California with an annual revenue of $14 billion. A 10% tax on this would yield $1.4 billion in California alone. Many drug users die from ill-prepared products. By legalizing cannabis, the FDA could regulate and oversee production. Recently on Dr. Oz's show, he discussed the topic of marijuana legalization. Dr. Oz said that many in the medical community believe that marijuana can be a powerful tool to alleviate the symptoms of cancer, AIDS, multiple sclerosis, arthritis, glaucoma, and migraines. Many patients that use marijuana say it works better and in ways that no other medication has worked for them. Montel Williams, TV personality, is one of these patients that can attest to this because he has been using marijuana to alleviate his pain of multiple sclerosis for the past 10 years, and that cannabis has given him his life back. Montel has also said that marijuana use has gone down among teenagers and in high school students in states where marijuana is legalized. Dr. Oz pointed out that although New Jersey recently legalized marijuana, it is virtually impossible to obtain, therefore not helping the patients who need it. He said that it is not fair to pass laws to make it look as if it is legal and then not be able to give the people what they need. Dr. Oz also feels that it is nowhere near as dangerous as other prescription drugs, but still does need to be strictly regulated. Marijuana has the potential to become one of the most powerful, useful substances in the entire world. People suffering from illnesses would be able to experience relief. The government could make millions of dollars off of the taxes it could impose on its sale, and because of its role in papermaking, the rainforest in South Africa could be saved from their current fate of extinction. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I don't understand. Can you tell more about how the drug use was reduced in legalized states among teens? I don't see the correlation. I don't understand that.
Because it's not an off-limit drug now, so there are not as many people that want to go out and get it because it's legal now for them. Yes.
Do you think there should be any type of restrictions, like, when they can do it? If it was legalized, I mean,
yes, I think there should be restrictions at home, no public use whatsoever, and it can be sold to people over the age of 18 or 21, just as cigarettes and alcohol are.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And you don't believe it's a gateway drug?
No, I do not believe it's a gateway drug because most people that turn to harder substances start from alcohol.
And who's to say they never start from marijuana?
It's not that they don't, but 75% of people
start from alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Because I do believe that there are a lot of people that do. I know on Dr. Oz's show, they all confirmed that it was a gateway drug. Absolutely. So, I mean, I know that that's definitely a fact that should be at least respected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
These states that have it legal? What do you mean by legal? You're talking about prescription use?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
They're all medically.
How is marijuana beneficial to someone with no medical issues?
Oh, it's not really. I mean, it's just a recreational use then.
So then should they have access to marijuana?
I think everyone should because it's a free choice. And it does a lot less harm than alcohol does. Because I've never heard anyone doing a lot of the stuff that I hear people say when they're drunk. No one would do that when they're high.
In light of trying to get people to stop smoking, this is contradictory in a sense that you're saying, okay, you shouldn't smoke, but you can smoke marijuana, so wouldn't that encourage smoking? Not necessarily the drugs, but the association with smoking.
It could, but I think that it's a lot less harmful than cigarettes.
Is there any proof that marijuana can cause cancer, or is there any?
There's
mentioned
proof that it cannot.
It cannot.
Yes.
One study from UCLA, I believe.
Okay.
That was just one of the studies that I had. There's
So if
numerous
everybody stopped smoking regular cigarettes and started smoking marijuana,
Oh, there'd be no lung cancer
there'd be
then.
no lung cancer.
I find that hard to believe with all the time.
Yeah.
There's a side benefit no one was
Yeah.
planning on.
Now, what about driving? I didn't hear you say anything about driving and effects on people that
It
drive.
can affect, but there's no real way to tell if someone is under the influence of marijuana unless they had just smoked in their car and it smells like it, because there's no smell that comes off of them like alcohol.
Well, I'm just talking about the effects
No,
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
driver
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
driving.
All the reactions
Really?
are slowed down.
No, I mean, but we're trying to keep people
gotta
away
go to
from
speed
drinking and driving, but now we're going to smoke like they have
No.
cigarettes and.
Well, how they're passing it, and in California, you can't smoke in public places. You have to do it on your own time.
So you can get high before you leave the house and then go to
They
the
don't
car.
want you to, but I'm sure lots of people do.
But if it's legal, that's exactly what people are going to do. There's
Yeah.
nothing you can do
But
about
regardless, people are going to do it anyway.
There's no
Correct.
test for
No.
marijuana.
that. Do you think that's a good idea?
No,
Well,
not
sure.
like a breathalyzer. There's blood tests you could take,
Sure.
but if you take a
THC.
blood test or a urine test, it shows up for full 30 days in there.
So you have no idea that you took
When
in the
they-
last hour or the last
That's
week?
the problem with that.
Okay.
I think that's the number one reason that it's
But-
not legalized.
Like you said, it's a recreational use, and you should use, the same common sense as you do when you're drinking too. I mean, you should know. Getting
Don't
high, it doesn't
don't
impair your vision, it impairs your driving. Yeah, I mean, you're not advocating that, are you?
No, I'm just saying people are drink too, and they shouldn't be driving when they do
Excellent.
that.
Yeah, absolutely,
And
okay.
Don't, if you're going to use any type of drug to not put others in harm.
Okay.
Okay.
What do you think the age should be for this?
I think 18, because that's when you're a legal adult and can make
But
decisions
you
for
can't drink
yourself.
until you're 21.
I know, I have a problem with that too. I have a big problem with that too, because I can do everything but. I can go anywhere, I get to go to the doctor by myself, I don't need my mom there, I don't need to wait till I'm 21.
You can serve in the army.
You can
Yeah.
serve, you can tote a gun, but you can't
Oh,
tote a joint. Yeah, I got it.
They were actually considering
beer.
passing a law for military
people?
people to be
I think
18. Is that still running?